Hola muchachos, ¿qué tal? Buenos días. Aquí tienen el horario para hoy, jueves el 12 de enero o viernes el 13 de enero. Due for today, you had your guided workbook page 67. Due for next class are two assignments, the worksheet for ser versus estar, and then the ser and estar conjugation puzzle. Those are due next class. Daily objective is to identify the difference in use between ser and estar. And there is our agenda for today. Starting with our warm-up, we'll review the notes on ser versus estar that we took last class, this T-chart here. Review the homework, the two worksheets that we're going to start in class and that you'll finish for homework for next week. Here is our warm-up for today. Filling in the blank with the correct form of either ser or estar. And I'll give you a moment to take a look at those. You're taking a look at the answers, the possible answers. Based on the context of the sentence, choose whether the sentence is an example of date, occupation, characteristic, time, origin or relation, or position, location, action, condition or emotion. For number one, the correct answer would be ser es, because we're talking about the shirt being made of cotton. That would be a characteristic. Or origin. For number two, son las 2 de la tarde y tenemos clase. We're using the verb ser for number two because we're talking about time. For number three, a mis amigos y yo estamos en clase. For number three, a mis amigos y yo estamos en clase. Talking about location. And again, for number two, it was time. Son las 2 de la tarde. Son las 2 de la tarde. This is an expression of time. And 2 o'clock being plural, that's why we're using the plural form of ser. Finally, number four, Juan y yo somos colombianos. To be Colombian is a description of characteristic or origin. Talking about being from Colombia. Being Colombian is a characteristic. Either way, it's the verb ser. And that's we're talking about Juan y yo. That would be the nosotros form. Somos for number four. All right, for the rest of the agenda, we are going to review notes on ser versus estar on page 86. That's essentially the T-chart right here. And let's go ahead and take a look at the two assignments that are due for next class. The homework, by the way, guided workbook page 67. You could watch this video here for guided instructions on how to complete it. For the worksheet ser versus estar, you have an electronic copy here and video instructions. There are two things you need to do for this assignment. You need to indicate why ser or estar should be used for each of these blanks, and then conjugate the verb you've chosen according to the context, the subject of the sentence. We'll do the first 5 together. How about that? There are 22 total. So number one, el profesor no blank de la escuela. This is a reference to location. We know that because of escuela. If you're thinking, well, profesor is a profession, an occupation, why not ser? Well, the clues, whether to use ser or estar, are always going to come after the blank, yeah? Toward the end of the sentence. So yeah, the clue is going to come after the blank, not before. So escuela is referencing location. That's why we use the verb estar. The third person singular form of estar would be está. Here's your answer. El profesor no está en la escuela. El libro blank encima de la mesa. This is an example of position. Encima de means on top of. And if that's the case, position is going to call for the verb estar. El libro está encima de la mesa. Number 3, el señor Gómez es de Bélgica. Bélgica is Belgium in Spanish. De Bélgica is indicating origin. And that's why we're using the verb ser. Again, the correct answer for number 3, es. Number 4, Caracas está en Venezuela. Caracas is the capital city of Venezuela. We're saying Caracas is in Venezuela. This is a reference to location. And the correct answer for number 4, está. And then finally for number 5, mi prima está trabajando en la oficina. This is actually an example of action. And we'll talk about this in class briefly. These aren't examples that you'll see on your quiz next week, but rather because it's a grammatical structure that we've not gone over yet together. This construction is the verb to be plus a verb in the ing form. And the ing equivalent in Spanish is ando. Trabajando is working. So I'm saying my cousin is working in the office. Mi prima está trabajando. So the verb estar is going to be used in this case because these are verbs that are indicating actions that are in the act of taking place. Present progressive actions. And that's why the clue for both of these, 5, 6, and 11 actually. 5, 6, and 11 are all going to be action. So for each of these, make sure you're filling in the blank with the correct form of ser or estar. Don't just write ser or estar. Conjugate it according to your subject. That comes usually at the beginning of the sentence. However, for numbers 8 and 13, your subject will come at the end. So conjugate according to the context, and then also indicate the reason why you've chosen ser or estar at the end of the sentence. For example, number 1 was location, number 2 was position, and number 3 was origin. Last assignment that's due for next class is the ser estar conjugation puzzle. For this assignment, you are going to do the same 2 things as you did for the worksheet. You're going to write the form, the correct form of ser or estar, and you're going to write the reason or the context underneath. You can write it underneath at the end of each sentence. So for number 1, for example, or the first box there in the top left-hand corner, mind you, there are 2 sides to this activity. You can find an electronic copy. I'll put one here. And then again, the video instructions you're watching is right there. Yo soy de Miami. And then this is an example of origin. To say you are my friend, we would say tú eres mi amigo. And this is an example of relation. So I'm going to write relation right here. I'm going to write origin for that first one underneath. One more example. Paco no blank de Nueva York. This is very similar to the first box. We have de and a place. This is referring to origin. Since we're talking about Paco, this would be Paco no es de Nueva York. So filling out the puzzle entirely with the correct form of ser, and then finally the reason why, the correct form of ser or estar, and then the reason why. And that refers to the notes. Doctor, date, occupation, characteristic, time, origin, relation. Those are the situations that call for the verb ser. And then place is the acronym for estar. Position, location, action, condition, or emotion. Those are your 2 assignments due for next class. Have a great 3-day weekend, y'all.